Hey, welcome back guys for another night. Tonight we're going to talk about turbos. This is great because I finally had the opportunity to be able to show a completely stock turbo versus a slightly not stock turbo here, right? So on the outside, obviously this one is powder coated, but other than that it is 100% stock. They have the same stock wheels inside, stock compressor, and stock turbine. Obviously on the other side, and we'll flip it around here in just a minute. And so from the front, both of these turbos are exactly the same. They look exactly the same because they are, right? They're both running completely stock. Cast wheels, I think they're 10 or 11 blades, I forget which one it is, but they're completely stock. They both, at one point, probably had a boost valve in them, but other than that, they're completely stock, right? And the most horsepower you're going to see out of these is probably about 530. That's normally what all of the max effort tunes are set for. Purely because that's all of the air that these are allowed to push through them, right? Be able to mix with the fuel and actually burn to be able to get you up to about 530 horse. And that's kind of across the LB7, LLY, LBZ, LMM platforms, right? On the LMLs you can probably get a little higher, but on most of, especially the classic trucks, for sure, this is about as much as you're going to see out of these. I mean, at that point, you still have fuel. You've probably got fuel for 600 plus. But you're just you're purely going to run out of air, right? So that's where this comes in, right? So the difference between this turbocharger, which is 100% stock, and this turbocharger, which is not, is on the opposite side. We'll get these flipped around and show you what's different. All right, so flipped around, they still look very, very similar, just from from quick glance, but they are not at all, right? So this is still 100% stock right here. Both on inlet and outlet, basically they're all 100% stock, where this one has been ported and polished, right? And so from the naked eye, they don't look that different, but we're gonna get a caliper out and I'll show you the difference in these, right? So what does that mean to port and polish? First of all, to port it basically just means you're opening these up, both on the inlet and the outlet side, as much as you possibly can, right? So I've got the old gaskets. You can see it here if I put this on correctly. You can see around here, there's quite a bit of overlap right here, you know? Same thing on the bottom. I have to remember which side goes where. Let's see here. Basically like that. There's quite a bit of overlap around the edge, and there's still quite a bit of a ring going. So basically all I did when I did this was I laid these out and I set these over the top and I marked it and cleaned it out all the way to the outside of the gasket. Same thing over here. Basically it comes right to the rim of the gasket, right? And basically what that does is it just allows for the absolutely most amount of airflow as you can get to flow through here, both on this because of the opening sizes now, the diameters themselves are getting larger, but also because then you polish it as well, right? So if you think about a casting, you know, it's the exact same feel on the outside of these as it is on the inside because it's a casting, right? And they're just, in essence, by design, a little bit more rough. So what you do, basically open all this up. So I just use a die grinder. Obviously, like on that new WoldFab charger, it is CNC'd out and it's quite a bit nicer. And they don't really have to do a port and a polish on it because when they port it with a CNC, it's already very smooth and very nice. Whereas I did it with a die grinder, literally air grinder, me just walling out, checking, walling out some more, checking. And by the end of it, it's still pretty rough. And so then I took sanding pads, put it in the sill in that same die grinder, and came back in and smoothed everything out until it was very, very smooth. You feel all the way as far up in here as I could get, obviously all the way to the back of the turbine itself here as well. Basically, what can this do for you? My truck's dynoed. We're gonna put videos up of both of them here. The first time I dynoed my truck, it dynoed, and this is 100% stock, right? 100% stock. Stock compressor, stock turbine, LBZ CP3, stock injectors, and a lift pump. All the pretty piping and all that kind of stuff, built trans. But as far as actual power adders, lift pump, LBZ CP3, that's it. Stock injectors, stock turbo, right? And it dynoed in at 511 horsepower and 972 foot-pounds of torque. That's what basically this turbo right here. And then I went ahead and I bought one of these extra from a local guy that I knew, and I did a full rebuild on it. New journal bearings, new everything, new 360 degree thrust bearing, everything. And then I did a port and polish job on it. Had the compressor cover powder just kind of for fun to make it match everything, make it look nice. Other than that, that's it. This is still the stock compressor. This is still the stock turbine. There's no difference. You measure all that. There's no difference between this turbine wheel and this turbine wheel, and there's no difference between this compressor and this compressor. So once that was done, no more fueling, no more anything else, no changes in tuning, literally nothing different besides this is bigger and smoother. The truck now dynoed in at 564 horsepower and 1162 foot-pounds of torque, right? So that is a 45 horsepower gain and almost 200 foot-pounds of torque gain. I'll take that with just a little bit of grain of salt. Because it was a different dyno on a different day, right? And that does matter. Every dyno is just a little bit different. They can tweak their numbers, etc., etc. However, the thing that I will say about that is that I then ran the truck at the track last fall. It's in one of the previous videos with this turbo in it, and it ran a 12.79 at 104 multiple times, very consistently. Which was great. And if you put that into, there's several different calculators that you can use, diesel calculators that will basically take your ET and it will take your trap speed and your weight. And you can get your relative horsepower. And so putting in that 12.79 and that 104, I got to about 545 to 550 horsepower. And as part of that still driver error, you know, that was my first time out of the track. So very easily, we probably could have gotten up to that 560 mark on horsepower by tested track numbers, right? So once again, take that dyno number with a little bit of grain of salt, but I really don't think it was that far off, right? So you can actually gain about 40 to 50 horsepower potentially by doing this job. Now, saying all of that, would I take my turbo out, rebuild it, do a port and polish job on it, and then put it back in versus putting in a drop-in turbo? For the money of it, no, probably not. I probably wouldn't do that. If you had no other reason to stay with a stock turbo, I would absolutely probably, especially now having one and feeling it and hearing it and absolutely loving it, I would probably not go back. However, if you want to be able to pull in a stock class, in a sanctioned class where you have to have a stock compressor wheel and you have to have a stock turbine wheel, this is a great way to go because you're still 100% legal. You look down there, yep, stock wheel, good to go. You're not lying about anything, you know, blah, 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 blah. But you do have a little bit of a leg up, and that's great. So anyway, that's where that's at. So I'm going to go ahead and get to a caliper out. I'll show you exactly the difference because it's really hard to see it in the camera. But these are actually quite a bit larger. All right, guys, first off, I want to apologize. I'm using a brand new camera that I've never used before. We got it for YouTubing and just be able to use in general. So still learning about it, so bear with me a little bit. We're going to start with this one. As you can kind of tell, hopefully you can tell a little bit, there's actually a step up inside here. It's almost 1/8 of an inch extra from the outer ring, and there's a secondary ring inside there. I'll get a flashlight out there, you can probably see it a little bit better. So not only is it tighter here, but it's also even more tight right there. And I actually can't get my caliper all the way in to measure that. It doesn't have quite long enough of teeth. So we're gonna measure the outside and then basically add another 1/8 of an inch onto that measurement to get us to about what that one is right there, right? Take caliper, zero it out. We're just a little over 3 inches right there, about 3.03. Do the same thing over here. We're at 3.145, right? So you basically then add another 1/8 of an inch onto that. Actually almost 1/4 of an inch by the time you go all the way through it. There's quite a huge difference in between those two. That makes sense, right? There's a massive difference. Not only is it already smaller just on this outer ring, but then you add another 1/8 of an inch step up on each side. It's a huge, huge difference between the two. We'll do the same thing on the inlet sides. Here we're about 1.75, so about 1 3/4 inch. And here we're about 1.886 is where mine are at, right? So that's over 100 thousandths difference here and over 1/4 inch difference in the diameter up at the top, if not more. And not only are the diameters different, but it's also quite a bit smoother. Like this is very, very rough. These are quite a bit smoother all the way through. My finger's absolutely filthy. Obviously this was in the truck, it is very sooty. This was also in a truck for 100,000 plus miles. It's a lot of soot in there. Anyway, but it shows you the difference, right? It doesn't seem like a lot, but it makes a massive amount of difference, right? Your area is a function of square, so it makes a huge, huge difference when you're talking about airflow moving through these Also helps with their spool up a little bit. Basically just allows, once again, they're smoothed out, so it just allows the air to start flowing through there and get this turbine starting to move, which then moves your compressor, and get all that up and moving and doing well. So anyway, guys, that's really the difference between these two, right? This one's quite a bit larger diameter, quite a bit larger diameters here times 2, right? Because you have 2 of them. It's also smooth all the way up. Basically the pathway for the air to come up here, spool through here, and then come back out is quite a bit smoother than it is over here, and all of that together just allows for more airflow to move through faster, which gives you just more airflow moving through this side at the other end of the tunnel, right? And on a turbo, this is already your limiting factor, right? These little neck downs right here, this is your bottleneck, this is your horsepower bottleneck all the way through, especially for the LB7s because we're fixed vanes, and that's just the way it goes. But this makes it the biggest difference that you can get. So if you do want to stay with your stock turbo and you're looking for more than that 515 to 520 horsepower, this is how you can get a little more out of it. All right, guys, I'm curious of your thoughts on this, right? It's kind of spilling a big dirty secret about as far as what the truck was at and where and how it was doing it, right? But other than that, curious what anybody thinks. If you've ever done this before, if anybody's ever done it a different way, I would love to learn about it. Other than that, guys, that is about it. We are going to go pulling potentially on Sunday. It is Monday the 24th right now. So we got 5 more days to be able to go in between. Basically, I've got a few things I got to get done. I'm waiting on new stuff from HSP. They've got new bushings and stuff for my traction bars. They're actually off right now. The bushings were shot in them, so they're giving me some replacement parts. We'll get those back on, as well as I've got drive shaft hoops, safety hoops coming from Dirty Hooker Diesel. Be able to pull work stock, you have to be able to have the kind of safety stuff on the truck, right? So other than that, I've got a weight bracket for it as well. So we got to basically get the truck prepped and ready. I'm not 100% that I'm going to pull yet, but I want to be ready just in case. But either way, guys, the truck will be there. I will be there. It's Cambridge, Illinois. This Sunday, I think it either starts at 2 or 2:30. Ought to be a great time. So if you're local and want to come out, that would be great. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you can. Have a great night.